love working on American soil, Dan. Ain't had this much fun since Woodward and Bernstein.
How long till we keep this up?
Congress is pushing through some new bill that's gonna outlaw masks. Our days are numbered. Till then, it's like you always say, we're society's only protection.
From what?
You kidding me? From themselves.
Kate, well, let's ask the question that Ekow asked. Does the film retain the dark vision of the novels?
I think the film. I think the film's fascinating because what particularly it really is. It's a homage for me to the comic book. It's an absolute homage to the comic book, and this is a problem in terms of plot. I felt because however much it's a graphic novel, but it still is driven by character, and there's so much character story here. You know, we start with a murder, and this seems to be the plot, and then for the next hour and a half, it's flashbacks, it's character histories, and it is quite complicated. You've got seven superheroes with tormented pasts. But what it does retain, I think, is the real ambivalence that the comic book has about good and evil, about who is good and who is evil. Is it Ozymandias or is it the superheroes? And how useful are these superheroes in this kind of exhausted taxi driver style 80s America when they can just put on a bit of latex and save the odd person?
But as far as I can tell, they're not actually superheroes. Only one is a superhero.
No,
but I found that hard to deal with because the one called Rorschach has a mask which quite clearly has impossible patterns moving over. So the position of the supernatural bothered me a bit, and also the immense elements of borrowing from other things. I mean, I've inherited money, I invent things, I sort of wear rubbery things. That shot of Night Owl descending showed clearly that he was a Batman clone. I do find trouble taking all of this seriously. I understand the basic, I want to fly, I don't want to die. But on top of that, just the amount of sophistication on top of an infantile idea bothers me. And I felt that The Dark Knight, the recent film, created a plausible world, a nihilistic one, but not quite. This didn't.
You are meant to take this seriously, but in a way, does it not feel quite... You said it was prescient, but actually I felt it was rather a kind of dated vision now, this idea that we're still in the Cold War era.
I mean, the thing is, there's a clear distinction between the book and the film. And, you know, so the book...
And we're reviewing the film.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So here, the problem is that Zack Snyder, the director, is too reverential to the book. So actually, he takes it scene by scene. But what he misses, in fact, is the fact that there is a parodying of the genre, that there is a deliberate playing and asking questions, and he plays it straight. And so what you have, the element that most doesn't work is the excessive violence. And in the comic and in the book, that's played as a pulp thing, but here he plays it completely straight. So you almost have this pornographic surface to the whole... Exactly.
It's the sordid escapism I don't understand. I can get escapism, I can get sordid, I don't like a mix.
So do you think Alan Moore was right? I mean, he actually got his name off the credits, he really didn't want it to be made.
The simple thing is that, you know, the book is very complex, it's very nuanced. A film, even at 2.5 hours long, is linear, and it tells one story, and the book tries to tell lots of stories. And so this is a Baudelaire-ized, simplified version. For all that, I quite like it. But then I'm probably biased.
But for all that Victoria was 100 minutes, I was supposed to get through 7 superheroes. It had to be 162
Exactly.
minutes.
The thing is, I would take this over Victoria because actually it makes an attempt to be serious. And you know, after The Dark Knight, I do like this thing of your big action movie that is dark, that is serious, even if it doesn't succeed.
And what I thought was really interesting, how this is. I mean, I think it is relevant to our times because it was almost like America was a superpower, a Republican superpower, and now there are these exhausted heroes who they just look at their old museums of latex, and what use are they really to the world when there's someone? And I think it presents an ultimately very saddening vision that parallels the kindly ones that mankind ultimately needs a common enemy.
But it's not unusual because that's exactly what Dark Knight was all about.
You know what? There's a very interesting trend in action movies which we will look back on in time to come. So there's the Dark Knight, but actually there's the Bourne movies as well.
Yes.
And there's these big budget movies where actually America itself becomes the enemy, becomes this exhausted, sinister power. And we haven't seen that since the 70s conspiracy thrillers, in fact. And all of these movies are part of the same thing. They're part of this exhaustion and ambivalence that comes out of the last 8 years of the Bush regime in Iraq. So in that respect, this feels...
The pacing is exemplary, whereas here it's pretty leaden. The last half hour did give me some pleasure, I must admit. I did begin to warm when billions die, you know.
When billions die,
it warms
you like
my
it.
heart.
Yes,
it's just one by one. I wonder who I'm standing up like now.
Well, Watchmen is certificate 18 and on general release.